Hello and welcome to my, I guess, informal review of the 2021 Honda Goldwing Tour. I normally do board games on my channel. Every now and then I dabble in other things, and this happens to be one of those other things. So yes, I got myself a new bike, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it. I have had it for, I've put 800 miles on it so far, and I think I've had it for about a month, maybe just a tad over. And so I wanted to talk about some of the features and what I like and some of the things I don't like. I've definitely seen quite a few reviews on YouTube before I made this purchase, so obviously I like the bike. And then I just wanted to maybe touch on some items that most people don't tend to cover. So first of all, let's talk about it. I'm not going to read you a lot of the specs. I think that's the most annoying thing people do. You just go to Honda's website if you want to know how many cc's the engine is and what diameter the tires are and all that other stuff that, to be quite honest, you know, go to the website, you see it for yourself. That's not very helpful, if you ask me. So let's talk about the bike real quick. Obviously, we're looking at it from the front here, and we can go around the side, and she is pretty sharp looking. And I have obviously some saddlebags, and then underneath my jacket here, since the Tour model, it comes with the nice seat and for the passenger, and of course it has a really large trunk, which is the big selling point for the let me take this off. Selling point for the 2021 model. And we keep coming around. My particular model came with one of these. It was an Optimate Ready. It's basically for your battery tender. You keep your battery charged. Battery's like right here. And let's jump into some of the features. I think it's important to point out, like, where do I come from? What's my background? I grew up on dirt bikes. I had a Yamaha FJR 1300 AE from 2007. The AE model is clutchless from Yamaha. A lot of people forget about that, but Yamaha had a clutchless motorcycle way back in 2007, and it was an awesome motorcycle. The Yamaha FJR 1300 cost about 15 grand at the time, maybe 14. And, you know, in today's world, this motorcycle here is around 30. Yes, it is a very expensive motorcycle. So let's talk about some of the features. One of the first things that folks talk about is that the windshield is electronically adjustable. So it goes up and down. And let's go ahead and demonstrate that. So if you just come here, turn that to the right, then it'll start powering up. And it's got a nice little Goldwing power up. This, of course, is not on the FJR 1300 from 2007, but so this is a huge upgrade compared to what I used to have. So what it's doing is it's powering up, and it's connected to the radio station here, 93X, and then here you can see it's connecting via Bluetooth. It's trying to connect to my helmet, which I don't have my helmet thing plugged in. So right now it's just sitting there. If I press this button here, the source button, or this here, the audio, I can... Sorry, but I had it up a little louder than I probably should have. But, you know, it'll come through some really, really nice speakers, which also Yamaha 1300 does not have. But I want to say some things, though. And these are the things that I think a lot of people don't talk about. This electronic windshield, that was on my 1300 way back in 2007. So the fact that it has it now on a Honda Goldwing in 2021, or I guess 2018 is when it first started having this feature, that's like way behind the times, if you ask me. I know people are excited about it, and you have every reason to be. It's really nice. But this was something I was spoiled with for years. I don't understand why it took so long. Now, a lot of people talk about this stuff, like, for example, if I click on home here, I can use this to move around and do settings, and I can also use this here in a very similar way. So like I'm pushing to the right or up and down, and I'm doing the same thing with this here as you can with this. Now, one of the things is when the engine is running and you're in gear, I think you have to actually be moving. It has the ability to detect that. This will shut off. Like, this only works if you're not moving, whereas this will work even while you're driving. So that's a key difference. And so you can see here there's a home button and a back button just like there is there. I can spend an hour talking about the electronics on this. People talk about how they don't like the navigation. Couple of things about this, and I know I'm diving into some of the deep features here, but with the navigation, here's something that I guess there's a few things to say about it. Like the first one is okay, if I'm here and I want to go somewhere, you know, so I'm gonna try to tell the bike where I want to go. Well, I'm gonna have to say menu and then destination input. And this is a situation that really happened to me, and it's extremely annoying. So I want to go to a point of interest. So my son is involved in high school track. So I wanted to go to a high school to watch his track meet. And I didn't know how to get there, so I go to all POIs, and I got all these options, right? And so I'm trying to go, so I think I picked everyday life. This is the part that's annoying, is you have to like narrow it down and you don't even know which category to put in. This is the stuff that really frustrated me. I think I picked everyday life, and then yes, schools. So you narrow it down a bit, right? But what it does is it shows you all the schools that are closest to you. I need to go to a school that's 20 miles away called Maple Grove. I'm revealing where I live, I know, I apologize. But like, I'm scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. You see what the issue is here? I mean, you have to go forever and ever. Like, I can't just type in M. And that is my biggest gripe with the navigation feature. I think it's really difficult to put in your destination. And so your best bet, if you want to do this, is to go to address. Now, in order to do that, though, you have to look up the address on your phone and then like look at your phone to be able to type it in. So one thing that is super cool about it, though, because there are some nice features to it. For example, if I'm typing in the state, I can do M. Well, actually, I got to put in the country first. So I have to go to U. This is a little crazy, I know. Oh gosh. Why is it doing this to me? All right, let's try again. M. I guess I have to spell it out. I. There we go. So now I'm going to choose Minnesota, in case you haven't figured it out. And then you sort of have to go backwards. So if I do zip codes, this is the part that I'm trying to get at. It knows that for the state of Minnesota, that zip codes only start with those 5 digits. So those are the only 5 available. So I'm going to go ahead and type one in that's local here. So you can see 55, and then I do a 4. That's one that's nearby. And now I'm going to go ahead and try to do a street. So they want the name of the street first. So I can do one here. So streets that begin with P, there's only, in the whole zip code area, it has it narrowed down. There's only 4 types of streets. So if I do PO, I get Power Road, and it automatically knows what I want. So I know this has been very long-winded, but what I'm trying to say is that this is the good part about the navigation that's built in. It's 100%, it uses satellite, so it doesn't matter where you're at. It's been very reliable in that regard. But to be quite honest, I don't use it. This comes with Apple CarPlay. So I am using my phone as my camera here, but if I were to plug my phone in, Apple CarPlay will show up on here. and then it'll be another option right here. And then I could use the GPS that's built into my Apple phone. I can also play my music, all that stuff. And to finish up this conversation, that part is awesome. Very, very nice. And I am draining my battery here because I haven't started the bike. But, you know, some basic features, you can, you know, it has your mileage. Like I'm on trip B there, and I can, you know, move back and forth, and then switch it. So you can see I put in 854 miles so far on the bike, and then trip A, trip B, you know, stuff like that. You can bring up information that shows up along the bottom here. So you can see that I'm getting 40.5 miles per gallon. Some people get way more than that, but I think they drive like grandpas. And this will be a gauge, like while you're driving, it'll tell you how good you're doing for miles per gallon, if that's your thing. And then of course, how long you've been driving. There's so much to do here. I could do a whole video on this. I'm gonna go ahead and stop there, but let's go ahead and fire it up while I'm here, and then we'll talk about the rest of the features. So that's all you have to do. You just press this button there, and it fires up. And one thing I think a lot of people do is they don't let it heat up. Like, you got to get the engine warm before you start driving it. I think people make that mistake a lot, and that's okay. But I don't want to instruct people how to use their bike. I'm just trying to talk about this. This here is I have it what's called 2-up. So it's a preloaded suspension, and I have it set up so basically it's a suspension for 2 people to be on the bike. I'm a bigger guy, and so I didn't think one person was enough. For my size and weight, I wanted it to be 2-up. I like the stiffer suspension, and so that works for me. This here is just showing that if you're on a hill, it's got hill assist so you don't drift backwards, and then that's the torque control to prevent your back wheel from spinning. You can shut that off if you like. Okay, the next feature is there's no clutch. This is a DCT, DCT transmission. For all intents and purposes, we could just call it an automatic transmission. So basically, it's in neutral right now, but it basically has 2 sets of gears. It's already in first gear. So all you have to do is hit drive here, and that would put it in first gear, and it's already there. And then it's automatically in second gear, because it basically has 2 gears, and it just switches between them. So it does really fast shifting, and all you have to do is hit the gas and go. And once, you know, it meets a certain parameter or algorithm, it'll automatically shift on its own. Okay, so another thing I can do, I'm gonna put it back in neutral, or at least I think I am. Oh, I've never done this before. So how do I put it back in neutral? Let's try, nope. So I guess we're gonna shut it off. And then let's try again. Whoops. Let's shut it all the way off. 1, 2, 3. Try again. Oh, interesting. I'm sure I did something goofy here. It's still in first gear, and I have my kickstand down, and when the kickstand's down, oh, look at this right here. It's telling me what to do. I have to push this in. There we go. I have to push in the front brake because it was in first gear. So now it's in neutral. So again, if I put it in first, I think if I push in the brake and then, nope. Dang it. All right, now if I push in the brake, there we go. See, look, I'm still learning too. All right, so what is it I'm trying to get to here? A couple of things. First of all, it's in tour mode. Tour mode is my favorite mode. Another feature is you hit this button right here, and You can see it goes into sport, econ, or rain. Tour mode is to me, the most relaxing. Sport mode is truly very sporty. It can be very jerky whenever you're in sport mode, but gosh darn it, it's got some kick. So coming from the FJR 1300 world, the sport mode is actually closer to the FJR 1300, but I've really learned to like the tour because, you know, sometimes, I mean, I'm getting older. I don't necessarily need to vroom vroom all the time. And it, of course, gets better gas mileage. Last thing I wanted to get at here is you can choose to go into what's called manual mode here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that button, and we can put it into gear. And then, see, watch this. See, that's in automatic mode, and then the D disappears when it's in manual mode. All right, so I can shift gears using this button here to go downshift, and this button for upshifting. So I can do everything from my hand. You just don't have a lever. People talk all the time about how this bike, you know, oh, the automatic transmission, that would drive me nuts. I always need to have my clutch. Well, all you have to do is go into manual mode, and you can manually shift your gears all by yourself. You know, this bike will not shift gears unless you tell it to. It does have a feature where it will downshift if you're somehow going to stall the bike. So it does do that. But to be quite honest, the Yamaha FJR 1300 had that feature way back in 2007. It's just a standard feature that comes when you have a situation like this. So I don't understand why people complain. You have complete control over shifting your gears. The only time this thing would automatically shift for you is because you're a poor driver and you're completely in the wrong gear. To be quite honest, you have no business driving it if you're doing that. Now, what's missing? The lever. It's the only thing that's missing. You don't need a lever because it automatically has 2 gears loaded every time. So you want to shift up, you just hit that button. You want to shift down, you hit that button. Boom. The bike responds. You're happy. You live your life. You just don't have that clutch. Does it have, you know, like when you release a clutch, you normally have that friction zone. That friction zone is now mimicked through the... So as I start to give acceleration, there's a period where you just feel the friction zone. So if you're gentle with it, you can feel that friction zone, and then if you just keep going, then you go past it. And this works with a friction zone just like if you had a clutch. There's really not that much of a difference, and I don't know what to really say to people who are grog nerds about needing a clutch, other than fine, just keep one. But I think a lot of people lie on their reviews about how this is hard to handle, and maybe they're not lying because they're clearly saying their experience, but it's really from my perspective, it's an ignorant one. Here's the thing. People have been talking about how this thing will automatically downshift on you because it is an automatic transmission. It'll automatically shift up, it automatically shifts down, and that it'll automatically downshift on you when you're on turns. And of course that could be dangerous, right? Because if you're twisting through a turn and then it downshifts, that could be, you know, that could disrupt your friction and the angle that you're going and everything, right? This doesn't happen if you're driving properly. And I'm going to say that. And I know there's a lot of people who have reviewed this bike that are way more expert riders than me. And I'm throwing my gauntlet down on them when they make that comment about how it downshifts on them. There's even one guy who did a video showing how it downshifted on him. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you would just take your basic motorcycle safety foundation class, you would know how to do turns. And if you knew how to do turns, you would not have a bike downshift on you. Here's the deal. This bike will downshift on you if you're not accelerating. It is impossible for this bike to downshift on you if you're accelerating. So what do you do when you go through a turn? Well, you slow down, you enter the turn, and then you accelerate through the turn. If you're accelerating through the turn, like you should be, like the Motorcycle Safety Foundation class, Basic 101 motorcycling class teaches you, you would be accelerating through a turn. It will never, ever downshift on you. And so that is just bunk. And if you are a person who's claiming that it downshifts on you, you're not riding properly. You're not going through the turn properly. Now, one thing I will say is when I'm in sport mode, when you're in touring mode, it typically goes, this is the tachometer here, it'll typically be between 2 and 3,000 RPMs, okay? It's usually closer to the 2. If you're in sport mode, it always tries to be between 3 and 4,000 RPMs. So the RPMs are a lot higher. So of course you're gonna get lower gas mileage. But one of the other things is this bike will downshift to keep the RPMs up. And when you're in sport mode, you gotta be really careful going through those turns, because if you leave off the throttle just even the slightest, and because you're drifting or you just don't wanna go any faster and you just wanna coast through the turn, it can downshift on you in order to keep the RPMs in sport mode, because it wants that zippy zip, right? And so just don't use sport mode. If you don't know how to go through a turn in sport mode, don't do it. Switch to tour mode or any other mode. It's not going to do that to you. And it's all about RPMs. If you're a smart person and you understand that, what I'm telling you right now about RPMs, it wants to be between 3 and 4, around 3,500 RPMs. If you're going through a turn and you're allowing the RPMs to go low, that in sport mode is going to downshift on you. So don't let it go low. If you're going through a turn, you better be zippy zipper and get through it. And back to what my original statement is, learn to ride. Now, not everybody is an expert rider. I don't even consider myself to be an expert rider. But I will tell you, if you take a basic motorcycle safety foundation class, this is the most primary thing that they teach you, is how to go through a turn. And if you do it properly, and if you do it the way that you're supposed to, this bike will not downshift on you, ever. Now, enough of that, let's move on. This bike has a little cubby hole in the front. Inside of it is a USB cable, so you can plug in your phone. If you have the airbag model, the airbag will be here, and this will not exist. I don't have that model, of course, and I purchased this thing from a company called Electrical Connection. So you can see here that it sits on the bottom, and let me just demonstrate with my key here. The cell phone will sit there and go and slide into those holes, and it'll actually hold the cell phone up. So that way the cell phone's not scratching up against the edge. And the Honda gives you a foam pad to put your cell phone inside of so it doesn't get scratched. But the issue is that when this cubby is closed, if your cell phone is running any apps, it can run hot. Especially if you had apps running in the background that you forgot to disable. If your cell phone runs hot, there's not a lot of, the air definitely can escape, don't get me wrong, but the inside of here will warm up, and significantly. Like some people, especially those in Arizona and the warmer states, they have some serious issues with their cell phone. And this little doohickey here keeps the cell phone with as much air around it as possible. It helps. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it definitely helps. And it's both a good and a bad feature. And I know many people on Goldwing forums are drilling holes or figuring out ways to mount their cell phone outside. The one thing I will say is this is waterproof, so you can ride confidently and not worry about your cell phone getting damaged. In the old days, my FJR days, my cell phone was always in my coat, which was a waterproof coat. So I never had to worry about that. It does use Bluetooth. The bike will Bluetooth to your cell phone. If you plug it in, it'll not only charge your cell phone, but it will also use the Apple CarPlay features. And then of course, the Bluetooth is connected to my helmet. I have a speaker in my helmet, a Bluetooth receiver. I do not use Bluetooth on the phone because the phone connects directly to that connector. And so the phone is directly connected to the bike. The electronics on this bike are amazing in that regard. It can be a little finicky though. So one of the things is when you turn the bike on, you saw how it does like a startup procedure. You have to let it start up, and then you have to let it connect to the Bluetooth in your helmet. It has to do all those things, and then and only then are you allowed to plug your phone in. If you plug your phone in prior to that, the Apple CarPlay feature, and I'm assuming Android Auto works the same, it won't work. It just does not work at all. So if you want the Apple CarPlay feature to work, you have to do a sequence. And I can do another video to demonstrate how that is. I would have to get a different camera because obviously I'm using my phone as the camera here, and I can't demonstrate that right now. So couple other, like, now if you want to talk to me about like what's my biggest gripe with this bike, my biggest gripe is that when I have this on and this display is lit up, I can't go open my trunk. That's my biggest gripe. And I think it has to do with and it's only ever happened to me like after I've driven and I stop. Because sometimes you stop at a gas station, right? And this is still on. The engine's not running, like the engine's off, but this is still on. I can't just go and open up my trunk. So I have to shut this whole thing down, right? And there's several reasons why I don't want to shut this down. The first one is I just explained that when I turn this on, I have to have my phone disconnected. So my phone is down inside of here. So here's the situation. I pull up into the gas station. I need to get something out of my trunk. For whatever reason, right? I just need to do something. I want to leave this on. I'm listening to tunes in my helmet. I'm not even taking my helmet off. I just want to go get something out of my trunk. Trunk won't open. Doesn't work. So I have to power this down. Trunk opens immediately after, no problem. I get whatever I need out of the trunk, and now I need to get back on my bike and go. Well, I now have to turn this on and wait for this to boot up, which is not super quick. I mean, it's within, 10, 15 seconds. It'll boot up. But then I have to wait for the Bluetooth to connect to my helmet again. And then and only then can I reconnect my phone. So, and that's the other thing. I had to remember to disconnect my phone before I went through that process. So just the process of getting something out of your trunk can be very cumbersome because you have to shut the electronics down in a certain sequence. You have to start it up in another sequence. And that's my largest gripe with this bike. And now that's like a first world problem, right? I mean, it's not that big of a gripe if you think about it. But, when you're riding for, and you're making stops and you're doing whatever, it is annoying. But that's my largest gripe. Okay, so getting on with some of the other features, I know people have complained about the lights being angled upwards or down to the ground. I would agree, and let me see if I can demonstrate this for you. So give me a second here. My dog is going in the house, which she's not going to enjoy. So I'm going to shut some lights off. Come on. Come on. All right. So it's a little... I'm going to make it extra dark in here for you. So just shutting my garage door. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and power this up. So you can see that the lights automatically come on, which is great. And of course you have this here, which, you can push it in to automatically get some high beams, or if you push it out, the high beams stay on, right? When you're riding, this will generally, it doesn't go out far enough. Your visibility is not very far in front of you. And so it's a little scary if you're driving at a decent speed. And I apologize, I'm showing you a picture of our garbage can. You don't get really if you're driving at a decent speed, you don't have a lot of visibility in front of you. So I find myself riding with the high beams on, even if cars are approaching, just because it's the only way I can see far enough. Sometimes when cars are approaching, I can see the road well enough that I don't need this, but I worry about those things. I don't like riding and blaring other people with the high beams. Now, one of the things that I learned, and it's not in my manual, there was an online manual I was able to find on the internet, but my manual does not have it. So if you look down inside of here, I'm looking inside where the, so this is where the front forks are. There are two white knobs that you can't see right now because it's dark, but there's a white knob. I'm going to reach down with my hand, see where my fingers are pointing. There's a white knob up against there. There's two of them. So I'm going to go ahead and grab one of them. So for the left light, I'm going to push that knob to the left. And it's sort of hard to see. Let me see if I can grab the right one. I'm going to move that one to the left. So watch. Here, hold on a second. What you want to do is watch right here. Watch the level of the light. So it's just a knob you push left or right. So I'm going to push it to the right, and you can see how. I mean, I can see it. The light's actually moving downwards, and if I push it to the left, it's starting to move upwards. And I don't know how easy that is to see in the camera, but you're going to want to push that knob to the left at least 5 or 6 times, like almost like full circular rotations. And what it does is it just raises the beams up enough that you can have some better visibility. Now the other thing is when you have the touring mode, there's this button here. You can see that the bottom actually lights up, and that's because the fog lights are turning on. That's the fog lights down there. So the fog lights are going to more than cover the ground area. So you don't need your headlights to light up the ground. The fog lights will do that for you. And they also increase your visibility. I think if you're riding at night, it's sort of a must. One other thing while I'm on the electronics is that the heated hand grips are phenomenal. I can put that, so this is Minnesota. I already revealed where I'm from. I'm in Minnesota. It's cold here, in case you don't know anything about Minnesota. I bought this bike in April, and I rode this in 20-degree weather. In April, yes, it gets that cold. And I had this on 3 setting. And there's five levels of heat. I put this on 3, and my hands were as toasty warm as you could ever ask for. The hands were not an issue. And I was also in a pouring rain, which was maybe in the mid 40s temperature-wise. And then the rain started coming down, and my gloves were not waterproof. So my hands got soaked through the gloves, just leather gloves. I put this on the 4 setting, and it got too hot. I had to reduce it down to 3 and then down to 2. But it definitely kept my hands warm, no issue. And then this is the heated seat, which I also had, with the rain. I was just wearing blue jeans, so, your butt gets all wet. I cranked the heat up on this one. 5 was too hot for me, but I was able to dry out the seat, so the water was no longer an issue. And then I was even able to dry my rear end, no problem with it. By the time I got home, I was mostly dry. And of course the rain was just temporary. It wasn't like it was raining nonstop. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and let's get this garage door open again and power this back down. And I'm going to go turn on some lights again. Okay, so talking about some more features here. I don't know if every bike comes with this, but this battery tender cable is awesome. And I actually bought an Optimate. I know there's other brands you don't need to follow. And the fact that I have one that says Honda, I know it makes me seem like a fanboy, but it was actually cheaper. I got the Optimate 3, and it is a fantastic little device. So you can use that to charge up your battery, do a tender on it. It's really, really good. Highly recommend it. And if you don't have that, if you go to a dealer or whatever, ask for it to be installed. I highly recommend that you not drive off the lot with this, or without it, I mean. It is, in my opinion, necessary. My battery has not ever gotten to the point where I couldn't start it, but plugging in the battery tender, I have definitely seen that the charge for the battery does go down, especially when you're showing off your features like I was. You know, the whole time it's sitting there, I'm just draining the battery without the engine running. Okay, so I highly recommend that as a feature. Another one is the foot pegs. So I want to show you a little bit here. So this is my left foot peg, and see how it peels up like this? It's pretty flimsy, if you ask me. And you know, with the way my foot sits on it, you could tell that I like to sit at an angle with my foot, because you can see that it's already off center. This, in my opinion, is very poor. Now, I think some of it is it popped up. Like I think I need to fold it. Like, see, you can see here there's a lip. So this lip needs to go over the peg. So actually my foot peg popped off. So I need to actually, when I'm done recording, I think I can get this back on so it'll be aligned a little bit better. This is something that I don't really, I mean, the foot peg itself is fairly comfortable, but it's not my favorite. I mean, this is soft, and I like that part because it's good on my feet. But I mean, you can see there, look, it just pops off. It gets out of kilter. It does go up a bit. People were talking about how when you're cornering, the foot pegs, you know, scrape against the metal. It goes up. But anyways, you could probably do better. And this would be something that, you know, if you were to go and get some aftermarket foot pegs, this would not be a bad thing to consider. The passenger seat has its own heating mechanism, so it goes also up to 1 to 5 so they can heat themselves. I was told by my passenger that it works wonderful. Okay, the seat. People are complaining about the seat and saying that the seat is awful. I do know that with the 2021 Tour model, you can see the seat has this fancy cover, and I think the 2018, 19, and 20 doesn't have the fancy cover. This seat is one of the most comfortable seats I've ever ridden in. Now, granted, I'm coming from a Yamaha, so Yamaha, you know, they tend to give you a really sporty machine, but you have to upgrade your Farkles, you know, upgrade everything aftermarket. And yeah, I was dealing with a crappy FJR seat, but this seat is amazing. I'm super comfortable in the seat. It feels fantastic. This little bit on the back helps my lower back. I mean, I sit basically right here at my height. I just scooch up against the back. I've never been uncomfortable in this seat. Have I done a 3-hour ride yet? I came close. I think I did like 2.5 hours. I know some of you guys are nuts and you go for 5-6 hours at a time, and maybe the seat will become a problem then. But to be quite honest, my helmet gets uncomfortable. You know, I get dehydrated from, you know, the sun shining on me. There's some, like the foot pegs would cause me an issue after riding a long time, way before this seat would. But again, I know that this is a different seat than some of the other models, so maybe I'm just getting lucky, right? Because I have a newer model and they improve the seat based on some feedback or whatever. A couple of things. The side pocket, it just opens with the press of a button. It's really hard to find when you're new. And you know, I just keep, you know, some stuff like my manual and whatnot. But one thing that's really interesting is this is the helmet lock that comes with the bike. And people have complained about this, and I don't know. To be quite honest, this is a really good helmet lock. Now, is it like, you know, super fantastic good? No. I mean, but in terms of like function, it works fantastic. So there's this little button here, and right here is the helmet lock mechanism. So you can see here that that is a locked helmet. And if I hit this button, it pops out. And so what you do is you take this and you use your helmet here, and I'm doing all this with one hand, so please forgive me. I'm feeding it through like so. All right, so once I feed it through, I can then take this and I have to plug it in. So the way it's going to work is I'm going to flip the helmet over so it's sitting on my seat, and I need it to go, the slot is down here. It's hard to see with the camera, but right there it is. So I'm going to slide this down. I'm trying to do this with one hand. Please forgive me. I know it's... All right, let me put the camera down.